the Reverend Nelson B. Rivers. Good evening, sir, and welcome back to Bounce Around Charleston.
Good evening, Reverend Miller. God bless you, man. I'm so glad to be back and so glad to be back with you. It has been a minute. Many things have happened. The world has changed in front of our very eyes, but in many ways changed for the better. So thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Okay, with everything that's been happening, uh, we just need to talk about the community and what's happening in our communities right now with all that went down. And we saw you in the news with the press conferences and everything that was
Yes,
going
sir.
on. Tell us about what's happening in the communities now.
Well, the black vote turned out in a tremendous way. We felt so good about the way our community responded all across the state of South Carolina. Not every election in South Carolina turned out like we wanted it to, or some of us wanted it to. But in many ways, the down ballot responded to the tremendous turnout. Our folks showed that the vote is important. They showed they're willing to stand in long lines, come in wheelchairs, those walkers that they have to come in and sit, and they went miles to vote and would not leave. It was a moment in time for us as a community, a moment in time for us as Black folk. And I was delighted and excited. I'm just overwhelmed with how well our folk responded. I'm in the state of Georgia now. We're dealing with what's going to happen here on January the 5th. But in South Carolina, the response across the state, we had a chance to do a lot of voter registration and get out the vote, working with the Black Church 75 program, with the National Action Network and the Conference of National Black Churches. And we worked all over the state. And Reverend, I'm telling you, wherever we went, our folk were responding. They were committed. They voted early. They kept coming early. And they could sit home and watch those numbers come in. It was something to see. Black Lives Matter, you mentioned them. I had a chance to establish a wonderful relationship with the leaders, Marcus McDonald, Brother Jason Jones with the United Front, and Sister Erica Coakley, who just got elected to the school board. It was something to behold, and they understand, they are woke. I have no worries about the young people in Charleston and North Charleston and in that area in the Tri-County doing this work. They understood. I told them that a protest without a policy change is nothing more than a parade. We can't just protest for protest's sake. We have to want things to change, and you have to change policy. You have to change elected officials and change the policies they make, and they did it. Young folk will turn out to be, across the country, and I'm sure in South Carolina, the two groups that really turned out, in addition to the folk who always come, that we really need to have, first-time voters and voters under 30. They voted.
Well,
I
you
love the fact
mentioned,
that our young people showed up.
thank you, sir. I'm sorry, but I heard you mentioned the young people, and I'm happy that you brought that up because it was apparent to me that the young people really got involved in the community and what was happening. So, what's in the future?
The future is bright. I am really excited about it. I love the way they take care of their business. They have integrity. They do research. I don't think people understand just how much research they do to take a position. They weren't the ones out there cutting up back in May 30 and 31. That was not our young folk. There were a lot of folk who took advantage of a situation. But our young folk were there. They protested and they did what they had to do. But they understood that the protest was to make life change, that police need to be accountable. We need the voting rights to be protected. We need health care for everyone. They understand it, and they're willing to stand in line and do the work to get it done. So from my perspective, the future is bright. Our young folk are not perfect, and not 100% of them are going to do what needs to be done. But the group that I was dealing with, the group I had the pleasure of standing with and showing support for, and them showing support for me and our movement with the National Action Network, I have no doubt that they will stay in the game, they'll stay in the fight. They also understand what it takes. They understand that you have to be persistent and consistent. They know that you can't let the enemy or the oppressor bark at you and make you stop. But you also cannot let your enemy make you act out of character, to get yourself locked up, to get you out of the game. Because when you're off the street, you're off the street. When you're out of the game, you're out of the game. They understand it. They got it. I'm also inspired by how our young folk were able to make policy change. You know, we changed sheriffs in Charleston County for the first time, 30 years? And that had a lot to do with our folk turning out and showing up. We had 3 Black women to be elected to the Charleston County School Board that didn't think that they were going to make it, and they walked in. One sister, Sister Coakley, was the leading vote getter. Then right there in Berkeley County, we got a sister who went back again, and what was a Republican seat as a member of the House of Representatives. We got J.A. Moore got reelected, Wendell Gilliard, and the list goes on. And they kept doing the work. So I'm inspired by them. I'm glad about it. I just saw the day that Clint Middleton, talked to him while I was traveling, is going to be on the transition team for President-elect Biden. So our young folk are positioned. They're doing a great work. I just get tired of folk always trying to blame them and say they're the problem. They're not the problem. Frankly, we got a lot of older folk who could do more work and less talking. That would really help.
Okay. Pastor, I remember us being together in a meeting in Sheriff Al Cannon's office, and
Mhm.
they wanted to have a press conference to talk about the Black Lives Matter and what was going on. And you stood up and you said, I am not coming to another press conference to talk about what we need to do. We need to take action. What do you say about that?
That was true. I was frustrated that we were getting our young folk to have the same conduct as us, overanalyzing something that does need analysis. We know what the situation is. We know that we're up against racism and oppression. We know we're up against discrimination. We know what it takes. The vote is in our hand. Our community should be organized. We're being gentrified, and we're sitting here watching it as though it's going to go away. It's not going to go away. We have to confront the policymakers and either make the policymakers change the policy or change the policymakers. But the good thing is, the young people reached out and took me up on that. We had long phone calls, long Zoom meetings. They came, they organized, they mobilized, they did registration. They were organizing food drives to help folk while they were going to vote. They actually got transportation from churches to go take people to vote. It was something to behold. And you were right, I was so tired of us having the same old tired conversation. And a lot of folk who talking, they've been at it as long as I have. They know what the situation is. We do too much talking about this. Let's do something. Let's confront the folk. Let's hold them accountable. Let the church be the church. We cannot just be the church. I was told tonight and reminded what my good friend Freddie Haynes says, if you are a pastor and a shepherd has more than one role. We don't just feed the sheep, we protect the sheep from lions and bears and elephants. Anybody who's coming to take out our sheep, we should be willing to fight them and do mortal combat if necessary to do it both in a spiritual way as well as in the reality. And so I was glad that they responded. And look at it, look around. Charleston changed in front of our very eyes. And I did have to apologize to a lot of my white brothers and sisters because I was convinced that most of them would not do the right thing. But the fact of the matter is, we were able to make a difference in South Carolina and Georgia and Milwaukee and other places because a lot of folks said that America's soul was on crisis, was on trial, and they wanted to vote for right. Not vote for right wing, not vote for a party. They wanted to do the right thing. And it happened in so many cases and really brought tears to my eyes because I went to bed frustrated on Wednesday night at 3 o'clock in the morning. Tuesday night, 3 o'clock in the morning, Wednesday, and got up Wednesday morning, man, and the precincts and the counties and the cities where African Americans had gone to vote early started to come in. It was Jubilee, man. It was like that we had already hit the Christmas early. Black folk were so excited. America was excited. The people in the world, did you see that people all over the world were having parades and parties and shouting in the street? They were dancing in the street, man, looked like David. They were dancing with the gladness of the heart, like David danced, and they were so excited. And dancing like Miriam danced when they got the liberation. So yeah, I was blessed, man. I'm so glad. And I thank you for your faithfulness, allowing us to have this opportunity to talk to the folk. You cover a broad section, a cross section of the community. Folk bring the issues to you. They also bring the celebrations. They bring the drama we go through as a community, regardless of our race, our background. We all have a lot of these same issues. And because of Randolph Miller, man, and you making it possible, and you're not afraid to bring folk on like Nelson Rivers and Pastor Dixon and a lot of folk who do this. And so we're grateful for you, man. And we
Thank
commend
you,
you and
sir.
Channel 5 for not backing up on this. Hope I didn't speak too quickly, but we commend them for standing in the gap.
Yes. Okay. Let's go to another subject, one that I really do want to talk about, affordable housing.
Yes, sir.
And I know in North Charleston, you're working hard on that.
We are. We realized when I got back to Liberty Hill, got to Liberty Hill to become pastor in a great community. It's the oldest community in North Charleston. It was bought by a freedman and his wife in 1864, sold to 4 Black families in 1871. It's been Black owned and operated since. We're being gentrified on every side, not just Liberty Hill, you name it, Union Heights, back on the east side of Charleston, where I first lived when we got to Charleston, the west side, and Black folk are being put out. We've been put in places where we cannot afford to live, and our housing condition has gotten worse. So I thought that as a church in the community, we should step up. We should do something about it. So we launched something called Transformation Liberty Hill. And our goal was to build affordable housing on Liberty Hill, as well as to make sure that our children get a high quality education without having to ride a bus, without having to leave the community. If your child goes to school, the school should not be automatically considered a desolate place for your child to go to school. The school should not automatically be a bad place for education. Your children go there, why not the best? And so we've been working, and guess what? We just finished the first house. We have occupants in the house. House is going to be sold. Our folk,
Wow.
somebody from Liberty Hill, a young Black man and his fiance bought the house. They're in Liberty Hill. They're from that community. We got four others we're going to do. And then as we plan to partner with whoever will partner with us, we have no permanent friends and no permanent enemies. We're trying to bring affordable housing. The Housing Trust Fund lost on the ballot. That says something to me. Either we didn't do a good enough job communicating, or folks send a message back that they don't want the help with affordable housing. That means the pressure is even greater for civil rights organizations and churches. Every church should do like the churches did that down in Ebenezer, downtown, the 100 pastors. That needs to happen everywhere, because we are not going to talk our way out of this. We have to fight, work, and be organized. So affordable housing is a crisis in Charleston, a crisis in North Charleston. And the crisis is not going to go away just because we don't like it. And although we prayed, the Lord told us to pray, but you know what he told Joshua after he prayed for 30 days after Moses died? He said, okay, enough praying, get up now, go claim the land I promised you. And the Lord says thus, y'all prayed long enough, get up and go claim the land I promised you. Because he didn't say just pray, he said pray and work, and pray without ceasing, I mean praying without quitting. And the church is what we invest in. The church is what we love. Think about it. The one institution that has been consistent for almost 200 years in Black America has been the church. Before we had Black colleges, we had the church. Before we had Black millionaires, we had the church. Before we had even neighborhoods where we could go now that we couldn't go before, we had the church. The church moves to be with us. So I think it's on us with others and elected officials to fight to bring affordable housing. You should be able to afford to live where your children go to school. Your children should go to a school that's wonderful. Other folk want to come live there because the schools are so nice and so wonderful. Why not? Why not us? Why do we have to keep looking through the window, staring at somebody else having the boom? It shouldn't keep going that way. We should be able to do that. And that's what we have to do.
Okay,
That's what I'm
Reverend.
committed to doing.
Okay, in 60 seconds, if I ask you the question, in 60 seconds, I asked you the question, where do we go from here? In 60 seconds, what would you say?
Organize, organize, organize. We need to use the strength we have, do what the Lord told Moses. Look in your hand, Moses, what do you have? I have a staff. We have the vote, we have organization, we have people. Pick an agenda, let's do this agenda, and let's make this work. Organize, organize, organize. And then the word of God says, we must be fearless. Why are we afraid? Or what are we afraid? Our ancestors did much more with much less. I'm looking forward to it. I want to show you somebody right quick. If you just stick his head in here, Reverend, you know him because you're AME. This is the pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church. This
That's
is the
my
real
cousin.
Jamal Bryant. That's Randolph Miller. The real Jamal Bryant himself.
Hello, sir. Hello.
He had me on this show today. God bless you, man.
We're
And
so
that's
happy
what I
to
would
have
say, that
you.
60 minutes, we have a lot to do, but we can do it. The good thing is, Reverend, nothing that we're talking about cannot be done by us. And we can do it. We just have to make up our minds and get busy.
Thank you for being here on Bounce Around Charleston. And we wish you a safe trip back to Charleston.
Thank you,
looking
man.
forward to seeing you real soon.
I'm looking forward to coming back. No place like home. God bless you.
Okay, the Reverend Nelson B. Rivers here with us tonight on Bounce Around Charleston. Coming up next, State Representative Wendell Gilliard, District 111, right after this break.